All right, how we going?
Welcome.
We're here with Bassie again.
Bassman's
Welcome
back.
back. He's
Thank
back
you.
for a second. He didn't want to leave us after the first one, which is good.
And we got Jack the Bear.
Greetings.
Tony.
Hi, Jack.
Tony the man.
Welcome.
And so yes, thank you. It's good to be here. After
Nice.
2 failed attempts this week?
Oh, just
how
one,
we got
but
here.
these things happen, my man.
They do. I didn't really want to be here, but here we are. No, not really.
I didn't want to be here either. They just wrote me.
We're holding him hostage. So
Well, I mean, look, after my form this week, they had Bassie in for, just in case. It's like, hey, he's already done it twice.
We just call this guy up, play some table tennis, and then coerce him into another
yeah,
podcast.
you want to join it? We lied the whole last of the podcast.
Wasn't
that was
even
all
recording.
lies.
Wasn't
It wasn't recorded, it was practice. So we got Tones here. Let's talk about some of the differences in the industry. From when you started Tones, you've been around for a fair while. You've seen a thing or two change. To some of the dudes starting out now who are going through it, being an independent artist, being able to release music yourself. Bassie's on fucking Hopeless Records, which is one of the biggest independent labels in the fucking world. Just how things have changed, man. Let's just have a fucking bit of a chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've changed a lot, and they're continuing to change, and it's almost hard. It's almost impossible to keep up with it all, the way I see it. But I think if there's one thing that stands out above anything else, that the biggest change of all really came with the advent of the internet. And once people started and were able to set themselves up, put themselves online, obviously, the social media and everything associated with that. So that really, I think, was the biggest change I've seen over time. And really after that, it was like, the genie's out of the bottle, no turning back. This is kind of the way it's going, and then it would just evolve and has been and will continue to as well. I think that's probably been the biggest thing, as well as, prior to that, just, having access to labels and producers. And I mean, to give you an idea, just to sort of give you some contrast, when I was a young pup and looking at trying to get my foot in the door and I wanted to go overseas and just to contact people overseas, I had to write a letter and pop that in the mailbox. Now, Melbourne to New York, if everyone was playing nicely from point A to point B, it was 5 days to get there. Now, on the assumption that 5 days later, whoever got it, opened it right there and then, read it,
and actioned it, and
decided to, and then put a letter back in that day and in the mail, and come back. It was a 12-day. It was about a fortnight, right? Now, today that same was up is like boom,
done.
Yeah.
And you can see.
and it's you could hold your breath to have that round trip communication. So apart from that, it's also just accessibility. I mean, in this day and age, kids now can go online and any producer, artist, anyone that they really want to contact has their own Instagram page. They've got Facebook. Some may have a gatekeeper between them and the actual person, whose account it is. But the chances of you being able to have some communication, or at least them know that you have communicated, is far greater in this day and age than it ever was. So that's another big thing that I think so. And just the cost of also getting involved. In 1979, 80, for someone to set up in the studio, I mean, unless you were, the kids of Mick Jagger or Robert Plant.
Just wasn't going to happen.
It just wasn't going to fucking happen unless you're a rich kid.
Yeah.
Okay? Whereas now, really, you can get set up, even at the most humble kind of beginnings, so cheaply, and you could do so much with it. It's extraordinary. I mean, again, when I got my first computer, it was an Apple IIFX, I think, from memory.
Wow.
With this 14-inch big fuck-off CRT screen. This thing had a whopping 500 megabyte hard drive.
Was this with Mikey Costa?
Yeah. I was, Mikey, shout out to Mikey Costa. Big love to the man.
He's awesome. Love that man.
You really can't say enough good things about him. He's a real salt of the earth. But Mikey, back in the day, was running his own rig, and I had my own rig, and he was so helpful to me in terms of helping me. We were doing a few projects together, these sort of mastering projects, which were more really doing these compilations for different labels. So there were all this stuff that had already been mastered. So, here were, 12 or 13 DAT tapes, compile them up, try and get them to balance out and whatnot, and then make a new production DAT. Which would, so we were doing those sort of things initially, and I was telling Mikey, I really want to kind of get out and do this thing on my own. He was very encouraging, very supportive, and he helped me out with a lot of stuff. But the cost, though, to give you an idea, so there's 2FX with this whopping 500 megabyte drive, and it took a floppy disk drive, and it was about $8,000 or $9,000 for that thing. I mean, I remember the first gigabyte hard drive. It was a SCSI drive for a gig, and this thing was like 2 house bricks, big heavy thing, and it was $2,500 back then. This is 19. This is 90. Is
that for a gig?
Huh?
1 gig.
For one gig, yeah. And I remember, when I saw this thing, I said, "I'll never fucking fill this thing up. This is gonna keep me going forever." And so sure enough, we've seen what's happened since with how it's gone smaller and faster and cheaper.
So you think like obviously people's attitudes have changed as time's gone on, but the fact that you can, I guess these days you make a choice between whether you want to be a musician or whether you want to do other stuff, and because, when you're a kid, you only have a certain amount of money to spend. It's like, I'm either going to buy a guitar that costs $1,000 or I'm going to buy a computer that costs $1,000. Do you think that kind of, do you see that? Or do you see it's more just like everyone's doing everything at once?
Not necessarily. I don't necessarily see it as an either or thing. Again, most of my clients who are musicians do a lot of their own stuff. Yeah. It's in this day and age, it's become, well, first of all, there's this accessibility, affordability, and availability of all this stuff, okay? And now online tutorials and stuff. So,
it's huge.
And so now kids are able to, get a good little setup, learn some skills, learn how to be musicians, and they just kind of juggle these two things, and some of them may end up being a little bit better in one area than another area. But if you think about a band situation, 4 or 5 dudes, as a collective, people are going to have different skill sets that they bring into the table, and so I don't think it's a matter of either or. It's good to be multi-skilled. It's good to be able to have your finger in a few pies. You may find that you have particular leaning or an affinity to something. Maybe you have become successful in a certain way. You might be in a band and you do a bit of production on the side, and all of a sudden you work with a band, and this band do okay, and they get some notoriety, and then other people think, oh shit,
that sounded good. I'll work with them.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And so, and so, sometimes it's not necessary. You don't even have a choice in it. I mean, you may just have an ambition and a focus. But life being what it is, it doesn't always kind of go the way you plan. Things kind of
literally just talked half of our last podcast.
Yeah, one of the things we touched on there was how a lot of people could be set out with this fucking idea of how things should go to get to where they want to be. When trying to stick to that, you're going to blindside and stop yourself from all these other natural opportunities, which is going to end up pulling you to where you should end up at.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it also comes down to awareness. There's something to be said about being strategic, having a plan, being considered, but also having an awareness to say, okay, what's working, what else is available. So it's a fine line. So, being focused, but also not so loose and relaxed that you almost can be seen as being apathetic, if you know what I mean. Like, well, whatever happens, and I'll just kind of be at the mercy of the current. But no, man, I think that it's a good time for people to be entering in. I can see where, again, I mentor a lot of kids, and one of the most common things I get is, oh shit, how am I going to get a leg up? How do I make a start? How do I they get overwhelmed by just the volume of numbers of people out there doing it. And there's a lot of noise out there, and people think that it's, how do I step above that?
How to elevate yourself. And,
they just get paralyzed before they even begin. They're just overwhelmed with this whole thing. And again, back in my day, the amount of effort we had to go through to do the simplest of tasks that today are taken for granted, and that's not Gen Y or Gen X's fault. That's the world they've been born into.
Yeah, just technology.
That's what they know. So but it's a great time to get started. The resources are there, information's there. There's plenty of people that are willing to help, and again, one thing I tell these kids is don't be afraid to ask. Again, people overwhelmed like, why should I contact this person? Why would they want to listen from me? What am I going to say? How am I going to look? And you'd be absolutely amazed how receptive people are to wanting to help. If you're cool and respectful, and you're not going to waste people's time. You don't come across looking like a dickhead or just purely fanboying. You'd be surprised how receptive people are. And I'll give you a classic case with me. Just recently, I had Mike Fraser, produced AC/DC and the Cult. And, he's an up and comer. He's on the rise. This guy. Look out for him. Look out for him. Yeah. Mike Fraser, kids from Vancouver. Yeah. He's got
something.
He's got some promise. He's got some promise. Yeah. I'm going to put a lazy $20 on at Ladbroke, so he'll do okay. Yeah, I think he'll be able to stop his side hustle pretty soon. But big respect, Mike. Love you, man. You're awesome. So I wanted to get Mike Fraser on my podcast, and I remember some friends saying, "Oh, what the fuck's he going to be on your podcast? You got fuck all following. No one fucking knows. He doesn't know for bar of shit." I said, "Well, what's the worst that's going to happen?" And what made it. One of the reasons why one of my friends in particular, I said, he wasn't being sinister, by the way. It was just, because there hadn't been a lot of podcasts with Mike Fraser online. A few interviews, some press, some stuff, but really not much in a video format. And so I guess this person thought, well, fuck, man, he probably gets hit up all the fucking time, why would he? So I remember I hit him up, and it took a little while, but we got there, and I just out of curiosity, and if you check out the podcast, we talk about this. And
I've seen it. I know where this goes.
And I just said, man, I noticed there isn't that much stuff. He said, is there any reason why? And why? I said, look, I wasn't looking for him to stroke my cock. I was just generally curious as to why he decided to do that. And he said, well, because you asked.
Yeah.
Sure. You know what I mean? People think that, but that's just too simple.
Yeah.
It's just too simple. How can just a simple act of, people think that in order to achieve certain things, or certain things that are seen to be big or a coup or a great result, some scoop or whatever, it requires some Herculean effort that, Do
you think the mainstream media and like the way movies and things like that are, and the way people see things on TV and all that sort of stuff is kind of the way people think it happens? And that kind of is what influences people's thought processes on, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good enough for that, and things like that.
I don't know if I necessarily would blame mainstream media per se. I think that whole not good enough journey is inherent in everyone. Everyone's greatest fear is I'm not enough. Whether I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not cute enough, I'm not insert whatever adjective you want. And
even just as you mentioned before, sorry to interrupt, jumping on stage at fucking at Slam Dunk, you had the most fuck, who am I to be here with these fucking bands playing this festival in the fucking UK?
Imposter Syndrome. Yeah,
when we look at it and we're like, fuck, dude, we see the band's sick.
Yeah. And so that really is everyone's greatest fear, and that is the reason that exists is primarily because that was part of our conditioning when we were little kids. Because when we were born, we were all loved unconditionally, and there was nothing that we could do wrong. And we get to a certain age, around 18 months, when there is an understanding where an infant and its parent are able to communicate somewhat. So then it becomes a case of, so Ben's mum and dad, no matter how many times he shat his nappy or wanted to feed in the middle of the night, it's fucking little fucking Benny boy, right? He's the cutest little fucker. He could do no wrong. Didn't matter, right?
Yeah.
It didn't matter. But once we got to that stage of like, oh, okay, now he's starting to understand what I'm saying. It's like, now shut the fuck up, otherwise you won't get your fucking lollies. Sit the fuck down, or you can't watch cartoons. And so this unconditional love all of a sudden becomes conditional. So as kids, what happens is the message we get from who? The people that mean everything to us, our fucking parents or our guardians or whoever's looking after you, right? Because they are your whole fucking world. Yeah. And all of a sudden the message you're getting is, well, if you want love, you want acceptance, you want validation, you want whatever it is that you want, you're going to have to act a certain way, say a certain thing, acquiesce to a certain demand, okay? So our earliest memory, most of us, probably about 3 or 4 years old.
Something like that, 4 years old, I'd say.
So from 18 months...
I can't remember
4,
that
5,
at all.
6.
Well...
You're
You're not average. Okay? You're extraordinary. You're just
you're on another level.
You're in your
mate.
own fucking category. So let's just keep it fucking apples and apples here, right? And so your reference. So from 18 months to 4 years of age, you've had most of your life is basically got a program of like, if I'm going to be loved and accepted, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Go to school. You go into the school system, peer group. And so advertisers and marketeers and people like that, they understand how this works.
Yeah, they play on that sort of shit.
These people on fucking Madison Street, man, who spend millions of fucking dollars, doing the science and working how the whole psycho thing works. I mean, they know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, psychology behind marketing.
Right? So they know exactly how it all works. And they know exactly where to fucking tickle your buttons and whatnot.
Yep.
And so that gets locked in. So, and then, we're comparing ourselves to everyone else. There's peer group pressure. There's the fear of, again, we want to fit in. We want to be one of the cool kids. Well, we may think a certain way, but we're not going to say it because, we don't want to stand out. It's okay to be wrong about something because if you're in amongst the crowd, it's like, well, don't fucking blame me. You're a dumb cunt too.
Yeah.
So this is why you don't have mavericks and this is why you don't have a lot of pioneers. Well, we do, but the ones that do are the ones who genuinely don't give a fuck. Correct. They're happy to stand out. They're happy. And sometimes these people may never be validated while they're alive. Just things, what they're saying, what they're thinking, their philosophy, their ideas, all that stuff may never be seen or understood or accepted in the mainstream of the day. Sometimes it could take centuries, before this sort of stuff happens. So, getting back to this whole not good enough thing, it's endemic. It's a condition. It's in everyone. And a lot of people understand that intellectually. We all understand this intellectually, but when it comes to actually, understand that as a wisdom and living your life knowing that, that's a much harder thing. And that has been a big part of my life and a big part of the, as a guy likes to speak and mentor, it's a big, big part of the message that I share too, because I think that, how many people do we know that are talented, they're skilled, they're great in so many other areas, but because they deep down in their hearts, that they're not believing that they're enough or that they're imposter or they don't fit in or what have you, they'll never get there. And you sit there and you scratch your head and you think, fuck, I would like 10% of your talent.
Yeah, totally.
I remember one of the first times I did home was when we had this chat for the first time and you told me about how you had these imposter experiences still yourself. And I remember, and I've talked about how I'm sitting there like, fuck, dude, this dude's a beast in the fucking industry. And like, he's sitting here going, man, this imposter syndrome, you still get it? Because I was like, you always have it. You're like, fuck, do I belong here? Like, fuck, because you're constantly kind of always growing. So you should be always pushing yourself forward with who you're interacting and who you're dealing with. So that and just being in a creative industry where fucking we're looking for validation from outside people when really it should kind of be internal with all that other stuff. But I just remember hearing you say it and I was like, fuck, one, this isn't going to go away. I'm going to be fucking 50 and still having this shit going down. Yeah. But two, like that, fuck, everyone's human. Like I was looking at this dude, I'm like, fuck, man, this dude's repertoire, his resume in the industry is fucked up. And he's like, man, I have those days where I'm like, why do these people want me to master my fucking records? And so, like, for me, that was one of those times where you're like, fuck, I understood it intellectually, but then to actually hear that from someone that, you know in the industry, it's a different thing.
Yeah. Well, I think, once I actually got over that, and I don't have that sense anymore, but I think that was important to share with people so they realise that, hey, it's a human thing, and I still know a lot of people in my industry who are higher up the ladder than me. It's extraordinary, and they even, privately, will tell me the same, and they're saying, "Oh man, fucking, I just quite know how to get over that," And look, I'm sure there are some people that kind of blag their way through and deep down inside kind of know, but even the ones that do, man, even for however long they do, that's still a skill in itself to be able to pull off whatever they're managing to pull off. But
I think it's a good thing that everyone has a unique voice, but it's not championed enough. I don't think it is for people that are up on this high level that, look at them there. Someone comes to mind like Kanye West, for example. He's known as being this unique, says what he wants. He's on another level, this and that. But he also started from somewhere, and he had a unique voice, and he had a unique something about him that everyone has something individual about them but as a society, we don't champion it enough. We only champion it when they've gotten to that stage.
Yeah. But the other thing that's interesting in terms of all that is people will look up and compare and whatever, but here in this country particularly, we have this tall poppy syndrome thing too. So, so if anyone wants to sort of go out on a limb and do their thing, the fear is, I'm going to get cut down on stage. And
it is uniquely this country, I've noticed.
One foot on the accelerator, but
maybe
still
the
handbrake on at the same time,
Yep.
Yeah, man. Well,
and even just other artists, I've noticed, even it might be purely hip-hop more than other genres, but there was, when we were playing and touring and trying to get support spots, and we were victim of it. I mean, we did it as well in the day. It was like, fuck, why did this person get this to a spot? Or we thought we wanted that one, or, that sort
happens
of...
even in rock music as well. You feel like you're on the same level, but they're getting more opportunities.
And then all of a sudden you're like, fuck, why did they get that opening spot? So, and I think I've noticed it happen in Australia definitely more than the States. It might just be because we're a smaller fucking country in the middle of nowhere, but I think there is this feeling of there's only room at the top for one, rather than, hey, guess what? If all the fucking bands who are all doing good shit pull together, we're going to make a better scene. Everyone's going to be better off rather than
and
one
happier.
person sitting at the top. Yeah.
Well, the way things are, everything works on a hierarchy basis. So the fact of the matter is there's always going to be so many people gunning. There's only going to be one support slot on a tour. There's only going to be a certain amount of spots on a particular festival. And it's not a bad question to ask, well, why? Because, but so long as that question comes from a genuine inquiry as to, well, what else do we need to do? Or, what leaf can we take out of their book, as opposed to why just feeling bitter and jealous and whatnot. And I can understand why people can feel that way. And look, here's something that may not surprise you. Life isn't fucking fair. It's not always meant to be fair. It's a matter of, if you look at nature, nature's not fair, but it's all about growth and contribution. When a tree stops producing fruit, it's going to wither and die, and it's going to become fertilizer for the next thing, to come along. Animals get to, once an animal in the wild stops contributing or it gets to a point, it's going to get taken out by, a hyena or whatever. And it may not be as cutthroat in life, but the fact of the matter remains is, until you can find out a way as to how you can make a contribution towards what it is that you're, wanting to be a part of, and also about how do I cultivate relationships. I think the biggest skill that you need to have, or I think two of the biggest skills you need to have to be successful, and that's whether it's in music or in life, and that is to be able to master your emotional states, right? And how to be a good communicator. Because this is right now the economy of relationships.
Yep.
People say it's the, whose dick you're sucking, if you want to be really cynical, but it's not like that at all. It's just about, again, how do I how do I get involved with people? How can I find a way to genuinely and authentically connect with you because I feel I have something to bring to the table. I have a skill set. I have something to bring along. Most people, when they think about networking and wanting to make connections and, you know, all that kind of stuff, it's about what can I get? Oh, I'm going to go to this party because an A&R from XYZ level is going to be there. I'm going to go there. I'm going to have my little cheeky mixtape. You know, I'm going to bring my girlfriend. You know, she's got a nice rack. We'll get them out. You know, I got a cheeky bag. You know, maybe I can take him into the boys' room and, you know, chop a couple up. And that's not the way to do it because, you know, people are, let's just say, of influence
very
or whatever.
surface level.
They see this all the time, and it is surface level.
Yeah.
Right? It's fucking business, man. It's like, what have you got to bring that's going to actually help them?
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't always have to be contributing to their bottom line. You know, I mean, you may bump into someone and just find out that, you know, you guys have a similar hobby, for example, and you might just be able to help him out with something completely unrelated to your industry.
Yep.
But you're connecting on something that's authentic.
Yep.
And you actually bring, just as an example.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But, you know, if you're going to get involved in networking, you know, it's not just about being seen at the right parties, maybe to a point. And, you know, I understand how that for some people can work as well. And I'm not excluding that, but don't think exclusively in those terms. You know, go out, be seen, rub shoulders, do all that. But if you are wanting to make an impression on someone, do your homework, find out about them. See if there's some common ground. See if there's, you know, somewhere where you think, oh, you know what? Oh, this dude's into that, or that dude has a history there, or shit. You know what? I know someone like that. Or and you can fire up a conversation because, especially when it comes to the industry, and I hear it a lot too. And I don't think of myself as any great shakes, but it's always about, and I get it, always just trying to impress me with this or that or the other. And I don't necessarily, you don't need to impress me. I don't care to be impressed. You know, come and talk to me about something different.
Yeah, if it's a work thing and it's like they've come to you for a service, you're obviously going to provide that service at the same level because if you're a professional, you'd hope that for most people that they are going to, if you go to them for a service, they're going to provide you that service. So you don't need to do the other stuff. The other stuff is the extra.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you, sure, you might find a common ground and talk about mastering and it might be interesting and it might be, but you might also fucking love a sports team that you can, talk about or something and that might be where a relationship actually grows and it's not just like this on the surface type thing.
And don't let it also be some kind of long-winded strategy towards, coming to what you really want to say is just, can I have a job? Well, can you give me work experience? If you're going to be that direct, I think you get, I can only speak for myself, but I'll give you more respect to give you more time of day if you're just straight up with me and just stop with all the flistering and flustering and bullshit.
You can see it though.
Right? Yeah. Don't tickle my clip, man. Just fucking go in. Just bar up and just go at me. At least I know, because I can see your bowls from over here. Right? So don't fucking sweet talk me while you're holding your fucking horn over there, right? Just get it out so I can see it. Okay. And I'm either into it or I'm not.
The funniest analogy that's ever been on this podcast.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's maybe the most elegant way of expressing it. But yeah, but again, the fear of people having the gumption to go up for and just being direct, just being, hey, and I think that's true of a lot of people. There's something about vulnerability that people like, and women are the same. Dudes who think, oh shit, what am I going to say? And sometimes just going up, seriously, look, I'm no expert at this, but I can tell you now that most women would probably, you have a better chance with, I think, most women, if going up to them and say, listen, you know what, hi, my name is so-and-so, I really don't know what I came up for, but I just, and being just clumsy.
Yeah, vulnerable.
Just being really, just authentic. It's just, there's no bullshit. It's and it may sound like, I'm going to say that, I'm going to look like a fuckwit. Like, well, maybe you run that risk,
maybe,
but into whose eyes, who really gives a fuck? If you don't give a fuck.
And again, what's the worst that can possibly happen?
Yeah, but same in any business situation, if they just say fuck off, then it's not worth your time spending your time with that person telling you to fuck off.
This is again, we're having this discussion, and again, it's based on this intellectual understanding. What happens though in the real world when you actually you know, I just turned 56, so these things for me are, I'm not saying that I'm a fucking don at it. I'm getting better at these things and better understanding and better at, you know, being able to apply them in life. But, dude, again, it's all, you know, all kind of knowing in the theory. But a lot of people, in all facets, they're afraid because how am I going to look? How's it going to appear? Rejection. And then, of course, it's the story that we attribute to that. You know, it's like, I put a video up the other day about seeing two mentees who spoke to me and were absolutely fucked off beyond belief that this job that they were meant to be getting in, that was right in the palm of their hand, you know, we want to book you, everything. And last minute, it fell through their fingers. And so straight away they're getting pissed off this person. And I understand you upset you, what happened.
Emotion comes into play.
But, you know, most of the stuff we tell ourselves in those kind of situations, whether it's being overlooked or rejected, the story usually goes, it's me, or, you know, I must have done something wrong, or must have said something. And then so people then start, you know, going down this self-loathing, slippery slope. And, you know, 90% of the time, that story that you, me, or whoever is telling ourselves, it had nothing to fucking do with them at all. It wasn't a personal vendetta. You know, it's like the world... The world has... There's no conspiracy going on where people get up collectively with this express intention of how am I going to fuck up Ben's world today?
Yeah.
You know?
But and for whatever reason, when shit's going wrong in your own personal life, you feel like the rest of the world is looking directly at you, but it's just not.
Yeah, again, external world, reflection of the inner world. And whatever it is that we're... And again, because our perception... This is why perception is such a powerful thing, because perception is reality. And it's real. And, you know, your mind is telling you something, you know, and this is why people physically change. You know, their mind is so powerful that when they think a certain thing, they'll sweat, they get hot. There's all these... They experience that, you know, through that emotion and through the story. So, again, that's why I said before, when we can learn to control our emotional state and have awareness to what's going on and just understand, okay, well, this is kind of really what's happening. These are my controllables. Everything else, outside of my control. So,
I think the two things that stand out to me is, one, communication. I come back to that pretty much every single time, but communication and awareness of self. And like the communication part of it is crucial because it's how you communicate with someone openly and truthfully and having vulnerability and stuff like that. But having the awareness of what you look like, feel like, are seeing, feeling, all that sort of stuff will mean that you will be able to communicate in a better way. And those two things that come into every single relationship that you'll have in your life, whether it's work relationship, personal relationship, family, all that sort of stuff. And, you know, like the communication breakdown is what causes things to go wrong a lot of the time. And you can look back on things and go, I could have controlled that. But it's like, yeah, but you needed to have that awareness in the moment to be able to really control it.
And the other thing is intention. What's your fucking intention, man?
Intention is huge.
You know, when I ask a lot of people, I mentor, like, you know, why you want to do it? And the first answer, an obvious answer, is I have a passion for music. And yeah, fine. But when we dig a little deeper into it, we usually find there's, unless you can find something that is outside of yourself, you're going to have a much harder time, because then everything is egocentric when we got to think in an ethnocentric fashion. So, you know, something has to be bigger than you, more than just about you and your validation and your personal enjoyment and what you're going to get out of it. You know, there's got to be something beyond that. Look, I'll give you, you know, an example of that is, why is it, for example, that someone who's a complete fat fuck will not walk 5 meters to the fridge to get a beer, right? But will run around the fucking country for cancer, you know, or for research, you know? Something that they wouldn't normally fucking do, even though it's good for them, but they'll do it for a bigger cause because it's outside of them, you know? So the sister died of cancer, all of a sudden, like, well, okay, I'm going to do something about this. I'm now going to, you know, click in a gear and I'm going to get on with it. All right? So for me, if you ask me, well, why do I do what I do, particularly on the mentoring thing? It's I like to help, but it's a paying forward thing. It's like I knew that when I was younger, I had these incredible fucking people who gave me the time of day, didn't know me from a bar of shit, but still gave me the time of day, and what impact that had. And it didn't take much. Sometimes it was just one encouraging word, that set me off on a different direction. So, so it's like, okay, so my thing's about the kids. I was off to do a talk the other day at this other joint, and I was as sick as a dog, and I could have easily pulled out, and I probably should have, because I was feeling like shit. But it was about the kids, not how I would have looked in front of them, but there's 25 fucking kids who, one of those kids, it may or may not have been, I don't know what could have happened or may not have happened, but
that's out of your
if
control.
I wasn't there, definitely nothing was going to fucking happen. That we know for sure.
Yes.
So being there, no matter what the odds were, and it wouldn't have mattered because I don't follow up on these things, but that was enough for me to go, I have to be there. I want to be there. I'm happy to be there. It's not about me. It's about them. It's about helping them. It's about what can I contribute? What can I put out to them? The validation, all that stuff comes automatically. That is feel good in itself. That's just a feel good thing. That's an automatic byproduct of that. So until you can really dig deep, be honest with yourself, and find out, well, why am I actually doing this? What is that bigger purpose outside of just my own passion and my own love for it? It's important. All that stuff's important, but until we can find something beyond that, it's going to be harder to be inspired, because here's the thing too. Motivation, inspiration, two very different things. Motivation, very short term, okay? Everyone can get fired up over an idea. This is why people that want to get rid of a lot of weight, they get all fired up. Yep, right, fucking Monday, right? We're going to fucking do this, we're going to do that. And then 4 days, 5 days in, they're fucked, right? Because they don't have a bigger purpose for getting rid of their weight.
Yeah, it's just...
Usually it's about, well, I want to, girls, I want to fucking lose some weight so I can fit into this dress for my, sister, be a bridesmaid sister's wedding. I want to wear this bikini. For dudes, it's like, hey, I want to look good in the club. I want chicks to check out my pecs, my fucking guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's vanity, not health and vitality and well-being and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there you go. Intention.
It's a good one.
Very good point. Yeah. Anything to add on, Bassman?
Have good intentions.
Yeah.
What was that intention
That was a very
behind
intentional statement there. You might pass me some water there, bro.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nice. And then that was good. I think just to wrap this up, let's give some context, Tones. When did you start, and even how did getting your foot in the door of when you went over to the States and worked in the fucking studios there, like that was via fucking letter you'd send shit to studios?
Just letter. Just
And who was in those? Give us a quick little
letter.
context of you starting versus now. Who was in some of those fucking rooms?
Well, it was it was just, again, it was places like the Power Station. Went and had a look in there, record plant, just all the big. Look, I just went through all the big New York rooms, and then when when mastering found me, just popping in to see, usual haunts, your master discs and places like that, just the bigger sort of places, and I had a very non-traditional path through it, and it was one of the reasons I felt this imposter syndrome for so long. A lot of my other peers and contemporaries went through, the way it worked back then was, you get to a studio, you get to floors, you'd be a full-time intern runner, you become a tape op, and then you become an assistant engineer. And so that was the system that churned out engineers back then. Whereas I didn't do any of that. I went and I visited places, and I got to learn from observing and self-taught to a degree, but basically by just watching, meeting people and asking questions, and then thinking, okay, I think I've got enough here to kind of, bankroll myself and create my own opportunity. And that's how I got started. But doing it that way, to me, because it was so different to everyone else, made me feel the story I was telling myself was, no, I'm going to get found out. People are going to say, who are you to be fucking doing this? You didn't go through the trenches like we did. You didn't beat fucking bully beef and weevils like us, when the fucking Turks were firing at us. Where were you? We didn't see you anywhere.
Yeah.
And so and that was one of the and the fact that I'm not technical as well. I'm the least technical. I'm a technophobe. Still can't fucking solder two wires properly together.
You're not alone there.
Yeah. But again, most of my mastering brothers and sisters, they got much more technical proficiency. I mean, it ranges from having some idea as to how to read a fucking chart to designing their own fucking converters and writing code. There's a full spectrum. But and again, and it wasn't until Tom Coyne, rest in peace, brother. He when I remember telling him how it was a concern of mine, I said, "Oh man, fuck, I'm not technical. How am I going to fucking get a hold of this?" And he just sat me down. Well, he didn't sit me down, but he just stopped and looked at me and he said, "You don't have to be." And I thought he was just placating me. And he said, "Listen, man, this is music. Tell them that you come from the school of, I'll close my eyes and turn the knobs till it sounds good, because that's all that matters."
Yeah.
Right? And that, now, whether he really meant it or whether he was just, because Tom was quite a jocular kind of guy, I just took that on board and I thought, Tom Coyne told me that.
Yeah.
He's the real fucking deal. And again, these are these pivotal moments I'm telling you about. Mm-hmm. So armed with that, even though the imposter thing was still there, but that was how I managed to justify to myself my existence.
Yep.
Even though, there was customers and I was running a studio and on paper people say, "How can you say that about yourself, man? Look at the people you work with. You got some gold and platinum records. You got this, you got that." Like, you can't just fucking blag it for that long, But in my mind I did.
Yeah.
But that thing from Tom though, really, he's no idea just how profound that was in that moment. Yeah.
Nice.
That was good advice though.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are insane guitarists or drummers or whatever, and then there's people who just learnt it because they play this note sounds good with this note. They wrote a song and it's a great song.
Yep.
Both good in their own rights, but people have their own way.
Yeah.
And if kids can find that, then that's
some of the
important.
best songwriters in the world don't have theory behind music. You
Yeah.
don't have to. If you can
Don't
write a
know
song,
what-
you can write a
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
song. Like,
Yeah.
They're doing these things as they don't realise they're doing a suspended fifth or fucking
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
I don't know why they're doing it because it's
but
fucking
they are.
right.
Yeah.
When we're at band members, I'm like, play an A, and Jai's just like, what's an A?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the second fret. He's like, what? I'm like,
Yeah.
do your hand where you had before.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Like, the end product and the journey is the two things that matter. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you can get something that, if it is music, it sounds good, it's pleasing to yourself and others, and then the journey. How have you gone? What have you learned along the way? Who have you made friends with? All that sort of shit.
That's the making it. The making it is the process
The
of doing
process.
it, and not necessarily the accomplishments. And
Yeah.
can I just share a little thing before we wind up?
Certainly.
'Cause, this is a beautiful metaphor that was told to me by my mentor, Peter Sage, and it's the curse of the white rabbit. And the white rabbit is a metaphor for the stuff we chase: money, fame, prestige, validation, titles, whatnot. And so, we all know about the greyhounds that chase rabbits around a track.
Yep.
How many times, barring a technical difficulty or some complete fuck up, will the greyhound ever catch the rabbit?
Yes, super slim.
How?
They
Right.
don't?
They don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know why?
It's
'Cause they're not
designed that
meant
way.
to.
There's someone in charge of making it go faster than the greyhounds the whole time.
the whole fucking sport is set up on that.
Yeah.
It's deliberate.
Totally.
Okay, so it's not fair in that respect. It's not. That's how it's set up. So, but these greyhounds will keep coming back week after week after week, because I've never known a greyhound to come up to me and say, "Fuck this,
Yeah.
too hard, never catch the fucking thing.
Didn't do it last
I'm
time."
over it. I'm done." And you know why that? You know why that is? It's because they were born to run, not to catch the rabbit itself. Right? They're born to run. Artists are here to create. So long as you're showing up and doing your thing and having fun along the way, and it's not about impressing anyone, and it's really about contributing and putting in and loving your craft and helping people on the way, then you have, quote unquote, made it. Because again, doesn't matter how many gold records someone will have or how much this, people always want more. You know, I'll get my million, I'll be happy. Oh, I better get another million because I'll need just in case I lose the other million. You know what I mean? So it's never enough.
You always,
Again, you're never going to find fulfillment when you're on the track of achievement. Yeah, the achievements will come along because when you're fulfilled and happy in what you're doing, then the achievements will come their way. You know, because you're operating at a level where you're like, I'm doing, you know, I love this, I do more of it, repetition's a mother of skill, the better you get at something, you're going to get to a certain level where you're going to create some value to someone. You know, you will eventually become, you know, something or you know, you'll have something that someone's going to value and want to pay for. And so the achievement part will sort of come along, is it? Yeah. You with me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. No, I like it. Tones, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me,
you.
man.
My man, it was a pleasure.
It was good fun.
All right, until next time.
Done.
I have no
It was good to
closing
listen.
theme.
I enjoyed listening the whole time.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good for me.
Peace.
I enjoyed it.
See you later, guys.